I want to tell you something before I start. I am a rational person. I have a degree in electrical engineering. I have spent 15 years solving problems that have definite solutions, and I have built my entire adult life on the premise that things which cannot be explained have not yet been explained, not that they are inexplicable. I say this not to establish credibility. I understand that what I am about to describe will strain credibility regardless, but because I want you to understand what it cost me to accept what happened. It cost me everything I had built my understanding of reality on, and I am still paying that cost. It started in February of last year, and it started simply. I dreamed about a house, not a house I recognized, not a house from my past or my imagination or anything. A specific house, 2 stories, white siding that had gone gray with age, a porch that sagged on the left side where one of the support columns had rotted at the base, a front door painted dark red that had blistered and peeled until the red was more suggestion than color. I stood in front of it in the dream, and I looked at it, and I felt, with a clarity that I cannot account for, that I knew this house. Not that I had been here before. That I knew it the way you know your own face, completely, without having to look. I went inside. The interior was coherent. This is the thing that set this dream apart from ordinary dreams immediately, though I did not understand its significance at the time. Everything in the house was internally consistent, not the scrambled, logic-defying architecture of ordinary dreamscapes, but a real interior with real spatial relationships. The living room was to the left of the entryway. The kitchen was at the back. The staircase was against the right wall, steep and narrow, with a banister that wobbled when I touched it because 3 of the spindles were cracked. I knew this before I touched it. I knew the 3rd stair from the top creaked. I knew the kitchen window didn't close properly and let in a thin draft that moved the curtain. I knew all of this the way you know your own home. I walked through the house. I went upstairs. There were 3 doors on the landing. I knew that the first was a bathroom, the second a bedroom with a view of the backyard, and the third a room that was kept locked. I knew which doors they were before I opened them, and I was right every time. When I reached the 3rd door, I stood in front of it with my hand on the handle, and I understood with complete certainty that I should not open it, that the room behind this door was the reason the house existed, that whatever was in there was the point of everything. I did not open it. I woke up. I didn't think much of it at the time. Vivid dreams weren't uncommon for me. I went about my day as usual, and by evening I had almost forgotten it entirely. The next night I dreamed about the house again. Same house. The gray siding, the sagging porch, the red door with its blistered, peeling paint. I was inside again, this time in the kitchen, where the curtain breathed in and out with the draft from a window that wouldn't quite close. I stood there looking around, and I thought, inside the dream with that peculiar bright-edged certainty of dream thought, I know this place. I've been here before. On the 4th night, I tried to wake myself up. I realized I was dreaming, the specific awareness called lucid dreaming, the recognition that what you are experiencing is a dream state, and I attempted to do what you are supposed to be able to do when you achieve lucid dreaming, decide to wake up. I had done this before. In ordinary dreams, the decision to wake is sufficient. You make the decision, the dream collapses, and you open your eyes in your bedroom. I made the decision. The dream did not collapse. I was standing in the upstairs landing of the house, in front of the locked 3rd door, and I decided to wake up. I was still standing in the upstairs landing of the house, in front of the locked 3rd door. I closed my eyes. Within the dream, I closed my eyes, and I concentrated on my body lying in my bed, on the specific physical sensations of lying down, the weight of the duvet, the temperature of the room, the sound of the street outside. I reached for those sensations the way you reach for something in the dark, feeling for it, and I found nothing. Not my body in my bed, nothing. Just the house and the landing and the door. I opened my eyes, dream eyes, and I tried for what felt like a long time. I tried every technique I knew for ending a dream. I tried pinching myself, which achieved nothing. I tried shouting, which produced sound but nothing else. I tried walking toward a window to jump through it, which in lucid dreaming often terminates the dream state. And I walked toward the window at the end of the landing, and I put my hand on the glass. And I looked out at the gray street below and the houses across the way and the flat white sky. And all of it was as coherent and specific and spatially consistent as the house itself. A real neighborhood, a real street, a real world extending in every direction without edge. I could not find the edge of it. I stood at that window for a long time, and then because I could not find a way out, I turned around, and I walked back to the third door, and I opened it. I will not describe what was in the room. I will tell you that it was not a thing. It was not an entity. It was not anything I could give a noun to. What was in that room was a quality of the room itself, something the room was doing, or something the room had always been doing, that I had not been able to perceive from the other side of the door, but that was immediately and completely apparent the moment the door opened. Something the room had been doing for a very long time, patiently, waiting for the door to be opened. I woke up screaming. My partner was already grabbing my shoulders, shaking me, saying my name. I had apparently been making sounds in my sleep for the past 40 minutes, not screaming, she said, which was what confused her. She described it as a low, continuous vocalization, the kind a person makes when they are trying very hard to stay quiet but cannot. She said it had been going on for so long before she woke up that she had initially thought she was imagining it. I told her I had been trying to wake up. She said I had been trying to wake up for 40. The dreams continued for 3 weeks. Every night the house, every night the locked room on the landing. I opened the door twice more in that time. I will not describe what was there on those occasions either. I will say only that it was the same each time, and that each time was worse than the last, not because what was in the room changed, but because my ability to perceive it improved. The way your ability to see in a dark room improves as your eyes adjust, and I am not sure what it means that exposure made it clearer rather than more familiar. On the 19th night, something changed. I was in the house downstairs in the living room in the strange floating present tense of the dream when I heard footsteps on the floor above me. Not my footsteps. I was standing still. Someone else was in the house. I stood in the living room and I listened to the footsteps move across the ceiling above me through what I knew was the upstairs landing and stop at the third door. And then, very slowly, the footsteps came to the top of the stairs and began to descend. I have not described the dreams to anyone until now, except my partner and one doctor. The doctor used language like sleep paralysis, hypnagogic hallucination, and parasomnia. He said all of these things were well documented, treatable, and not indicative of any serious pathology. He prescribed something that was supposed to interrupt dream architecture and prevent vivid recurring dreams. The medication did not work. What stopped the dreams was not medication. What stopped the dreams was that on the 23rd night when I heard the footsteps coming down the stairs, I did not run. I stood in the living room and I waited, and whatever came down those stairs came into the living room doorway and stood there, and I looked at it and it looked at me, and I understood something that I had been circling for 23 nights without being able to approach directly. I understood that the house was mine, not that I owned it. That it was mine in the way that some things belong to you, whether you want them or not, assigned, permanent, inalienable. That I had always been going to dream this house, that the dream had been waiting for me long before I arrived in it, that the locked room and what it contained had my name on it in a way that no decision I made could change. And I understood that what was standing in the doorway was not something that had come for me. It was something that had been sent ahead to tell me that what was in the room I had seen it, and that it would wait. I woke up. I have not dreamed about the house since then. It has been 8 months. I do not think the dreams are gone. I think the house is patient. I think whatever is in that room has been there long enough that 8 months is not a meaningful interval, that it can wait as long as it needs to, that it has been waiting in rooms like that one since before there were people to open the doors and look. I am trying not to think about what happens when I open a door I cannot close. I am not succeeding. I need to start with a fact. I have never in my adult life been afraid of the dark. I grew up in a rural area where darkness was total and regular and unremarkable, and I developed early the understanding that darkness is the absence of light and nothing else, that fear of darkness is really fear of what might be in it, and that what might be in it is almost always nothing. This is the understanding I lived by for 31 years. I do not live by it anymore. It started when I moved into the apartment on Mercer Street in the fall of 2 years ago. 3rd floor, end unit, 2 bedrooms, the 2nd bedroom converted into an office. The hallway was 12 feet long, running from the living area to the 2 bedrooms. Nothing unusual about the apartment. Nothing unusual about the hallway. The first time I saw him, I thought I was still asleep. I had gotten up in the night, 2 a.m., give or take, to use the bathroom. I did this without turning on lights, as I always did, navigating by memory in the dark. I was coming back from the bathroom, crossing the living room, when I looked down the hallway and saw him standing at the far end. A man, standing at the end of the 12-foot hallway in the deeper darkness at the junction of the 2 bedroom doorways, completely still. I could see him in the way you see things in a very dark room, not with clarity, not with detail, but with the specific visual certainty of contrast, the difference between a space that is empty and a space that is occupied. The hallway was occupied. The shape at the end of it was a man-shaped shape that was darker than the darkness around it. I stopped walking. I stood completely still in the living room doorway, and I looked at him, and he stood completely still at the end of the hallway and looked at me. And for approximately 10 seconds we were simply present with each other in the dark apartment. Then I turned on the light. Nothing. Empty hallway. Both bedroom doors closed exactly as I had left them. I checked both rooms. Empty. I checked the windows. All locked. I went back to bed. I lay in the dark, and I told myself I had been dreaming, that I had woken up but not fully, that the image was a hypnagogic remnant, the brain still generating imagery in the transitional state between sleep and wakefulness. This is a documented phenomenon. It happens to people. It has a name and a literature, and it is not considered pathological. I believed this. I went back to sleep. The second time was 4 nights later. Same time, same circumstances. I was crossing the living room when I looked down the hallway, and he was there. Same position, same stillness, same quality of being darker than the darkness he was standing in. I stood in the living room doorway, and I looked at him, and I felt, with a certainty I cannot account for, that this was not the same incident as the first time. He had come back. He had been here again in between while I slept. I could not explain why I believed this. I believed it completely. I turned on the hallway light. Empty. The third time I decided not to turn on the light. I had woken up at the same time, the same biological alarm of the body that had begun waking me at 2 a.m. with regularity that I recognized now as conditioned response. My body had learned that something happened at 2 a.m. and was waking itself to witness it. I lay in bed and I waited, and I heard nothing, no sound in the apartment, no creak of floor or shift of furniture. Then I got up and crossed the bedroom in the dark and opened the bedroom door and looked down the hallway without turning on any light. He was there, 12 feet away at the end of the hallway, standing in the dark. I did not turn on the light. I stood in the bedroom doorway and I looked at him, and he was still, so still, with the deep and heavy stillness of something that has been standing in one place for a very long time. And I thought, in the particular clarity of 2 a.m. rational thought, that I was going to understand what I was seeing, that I was going to stay here in the dark and look at it until I understood it. He took one step toward me. One step only. Deliberate. Slow. Not the step of something that was crossing the hallway to reach me, not movement with purpose or direction, just a step, like a demonstration. Like something showing you that it is capable of movement when it has, until now, only allowed you to see it as still. I turned on the light. Empty hallway. I did not sleep again that night. I sat in the kitchen with all the lights on and I tried to apply the rational frameworks I had always used, and I could not make them fit. Because hypnagogic hallucinations do not step toward you. They do not respond to sustained attention. They do not return night after night to the same. They do not take one deliberate step and stop. Something that is shaped like a man, that is darker than darkness, that stands at the end of your hallway at 2 a.m. and watches you sleep. That is not a documented phenomenon with a name and a literature. The dream started 2 weeks later, not dreams of the hallway. Dreams of a different place, a room I did not recognize, with walls that were close enough to feel confining and a light source I could never locate and a quality of air that felt pressurized, too dense, as if there were simply more of it than there should be. I was always standing in this room when the dream began. I was always alone, and at the end of the dream, always at the end, always in the final seconds before something woke me or the dream shifted, the man would be there. Not at a distance, close, closer than he had ever been in the hallway. The same darkness within darkness quality, the same absolute stillness, and now detail I had not been able to see from 12 feet away. Hands, the shape of them hanging at his sides, too long, the proportions wrong in a way I noticed and could not stop noticing. And the face, not absent, not featureless, but wrong. Not wrong in a describable way. Wrong the way an image is wrong when it has been subtly altered, when something has been changed in it that your brain cannot name but cannot ignore. He stood close to me in the dream at the end of every dream, and he looked at me. And I would try to speak and could not. And I would try to move and could not. And he would simply stand there close enough to touch, with the stillness of something that did not need to do anything, that had already done everything it needed to do simply by being present, simply by being seen. And then I would wake up. I moved out of the apartment on Mercer Street in January. I told myself it was the lease terms. I told people it was the commute. I moved across the city into a place I carefully selected for its brightness, its modern construction, its fourth-floor elevation, and its long, well-lit straight hallway that I could see entirely from any point within the apartment. The dreams followed me. He is still at the end of the dream. Every time in the pressurized room with the unlocatable light, at the end, close. I have stopped trying to explain this within the framework I used to use for unexplained things. I have accepted that there is something that found me, possibly in that apartment, possibly before, possibly in a way that has nothing to do with location or circumstance, and that it is not done. I sleep with the lights on now, all of them. It doesn't help with the dreams. Nothing helps with the dreams. But in the mornings, when I have not slept enough and the dreams are still closed, when I walk down my new hallway in the light toward the kitchen, I look at the empty space at the end of it and I am grateful, deeply and specifically grateful that it is empty. I do not always trust what I see, but I am grateful. I was dead for 47 minutes and I need to tell you what I saw there because I am not able to carry it alone anymore. In March of last year, I was in a car accident on the highway approximately 12 miles outside of the city where I live. The other driver ran a red light at high speed. The impact was on my driver's side door. I do not remember the impact. The last thing I remember is seeing the other vehicle entering my peripheral vision and beginning to register that it was not going to stop, and then nothing. I was airlifted to the hospital. I was in surgery for 6 hours. I was clinically dead, no cardiac activity, no brain activity measurable by the equipment present, for 47 minutes before the surgical team restored my cardiac function. This is documented. This is in my medical record. I have read it many times because reading it is the only way I have of confirming that what I am about to describe was real and not constructed by a damaged brain. And even that confirmation is imperfect, because what I am about to describe is precisely the kind of thing that a damaged brain might construct. And I know this, and I still cannot dismiss it. The dying was not what I expected. I expected nothing. That was my framework. Death is the end of subjective experience, the termination of the process that generates consciousness, and therefore there is nothing after it, which means it cannot be experienced, which means expectations about it are category errors. This was my framework. I was wrong about it in a way I am still trying to understand. There was something. I was in a place. I use the word place because I need a word, not because it is accurate. The space I was in had none of the properties of place as I understand it. No defined dimensions, no locatedness, no relationship to any direction or coordinate. But there was definitely something rather than nothing, and the something had the quality of an environment, of a context, of a somewhere, even if the somewhere was defined by qualities I do not have words for. And I was not alone. There was something else in that space with me. I say something rather than someone because I am not able to confirm personhood, consciousness, identity, or any of the properties that would justify the use of someone. What I can confirm is presence, that the space I was in was occupied by more than just me, that whatever else was there was aware of me, and that I was aware of it, and that the awareness was mutual in a way that felt like communication, or like the precursor to communication, as if we were both waiting to see who would speak first. I want to be precise about what it felt like, and I want to be honest about the limits of my precision. It did not feel malevolent. It did not feel like the presences that people describe in accounts of near-death experiences, the light, the warmth, the sense of being welcomed. It felt like something that was looking at me with complete attention and complete patience, the way a person looks at something they have been waiting to look at for a very long time and intend to look at thoroughly. It felt like being examined, and then it spoke to me, not in language, not in anything that transmitted content, but in a way that registered as communication, as information transfer, as something I received and understood, and what I understood was a single thing, conveyed with a completeness and a certainty that I have never experienced in ordinary communication, not in words, not in any medium available to human expression. It told me that it knew me, not that it recognized me, not that it had encountered me before, that it knew me fully, completely, in the way that something knows something it has been studying for a very long time, that it had always known me, that the 47 minutes were not when it had first seen me. And then it told me something else. It told me that I was going back, not that I would go back or that I could go back or that there was a choice involved. That I was going back in the way that a sentence is already complete before it is spoken, in the way that certain facts are not contingent. I was going back, and when I went back, I would remember this. And when I remembered it, I would want to tell people. And when I wanted to tell people, I should have known this first. I should have known that it was not finished with me. That going back did not mean what I might hope it meant. That the 47 minutes had been a conversation, and conversations do not end when one party leaves the room. I came back. I woke up, or something that functioned like waking up, in a hospital bed with tubes in my throat and machines on every side, and my sister holding my hand so tightly that the bones of my fingers ground against each other. I learned later that she had been told I was not expected to survive, that she had been in the waiting room for 11 hours. I learned later what 47 minutes means medically, what the absence of any detectable neural activity for that duration means for prognosis, and what the doctors said about my recovery that they described as unusual. I did not tell anyone about the space or what was in it. Not my sister, not my doctors, not the counselor who was assigned to help me process the trauma of the accident, who I saw for 4 months, and who used words like dissociation and confabulation, and the brain's remarkable capacity for narrative generation in extremis. I listened to her. I thought about what she said. I did not tell her what I had actually experienced because I understood that telling her would be interpreted in ways that were not useful. I am telling you now because of the dreams. The dreams started 8 weeks after I came home from the hospital. They are not dramatic. They are not frightening in the way that nightmares are frightening. There is no chase, no threat, no conventional horror. They are simply this: I am back in the space. The same formless space, the same quality of environment without dimension, and the presence is there. And it is looking at me with the same complete attention, the same patience, the same sense of something that has been waiting and is satisfied to wait longer. And every time before I wake up, it tells me the same thing it told me the first time, that it is not finished with me. I have had this dream 43 times since I came home. I have kept a log. The frequency has not decreased. The content has not changed. The presence in the space has not changed. The quality of its attention has not changed. If anything, it feels closer. I have thought a great deal about what it means that I came back from 47 minutes of no detectable consciousness and brought something with me that visits me in the night and tells me, with the completeness and certainty of absolute fact, that it knows me and is not finished with me. I have thought about what it is waiting for. I am afraid that I already know. I am afraid that the answer is the same as the thing it communicated in the space, delivered with the same completeness, the same certainty, the same quality of a fact that was always already true. I am going back. The only question is when. I sleep with a notepad beside my bed now. Every morning when I wake up, I write the date and I write, "Still here." I have done this for 43 mornings. I intend to continue. I tell myself the log is for the continuity, for the evidence. I know what it is really for. It is for the morning when I do not write anything, and someone else finds it and reads all the way to the end and understands.